may be like Pink Punters. After 12 o'clock and after the pubs are finished, they want that late night drink. They're going to go to what's open next. And so antisocial behaviour is on the cards if they can't get in. And if a lot of people pour into the premises and it's not controlled by door staff, then that's my only concern.
Oh, Axel's got his hand up. Councillor Axel.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I just had a look through the actual application on, I think Ethan has got this open as well, from the Milton Keynes Council website. I'm looking at under, what is it, Section C, Public Safety, and the Prevention, and B, Prevention of Crime and Disorder. And the only mention they've made is they've got CCTV and staff training. So there's absolutely nothing in the wording, I've read it twice now, that suggests that they have actual security staff there. And I agree with, I think, what Ron just said about the vagueness of the wording, and it does leave the door open. Now, I would propose, if I'm able to, I'll propose that somebody who can make a proposal proposes that we comment on the grounds that, was it public safety, I think it was, and we would caution the owners to employ appropriate levels of staff, not just staff training and CCTV, because that's not actually going to help. And I agree with Councillor Richard that, you know, it is leaving the doors open, so to speak, to abuse. And we are in an area with nightclubs and others, and this sounds like a nice venue to go before or after you go out. So there's going to be punters in the area.
Just to come back, I have checked the name of the licensee or proposed, sorry, no, it's not licensee anymore, designated premises supervisor. I've checked the name of the company on Company's House. We do not appear to have any relation to the previous owners. And I'm just trying to think of a way forward, because and I think that maybe a way around this is by saying we think the licensing committee should have a serious look at whether the license needs to operate so late, and in any case, and if a license is to be had after 11 o'clock with recorded or live music, that the designated security, licensed security should be provided.
SRA security. Yeah. SRA licensed security.
Do we have a proposal?
Well, that's it. I'll second it.
So if you, yeah,
Have you got that? Well,
Yeah.
Item number.
Well, you've got to take a vote on it.
take a vote on it.
Oh, sorry, take a vote. Apologies. All in favour?
yeah.
Yeah. All opposed? Abstained. Item 5.2, 12 Montserrat Court, Newton Lees, MK35PR, removal of existing shed and replaced with an ancillary accommodation. Vice proposal following the approval of application with the reference. Any comments?
No.
No, so do you take a vote on that?
No, there's no comments.
Item number 3, 67 Simpson Road, Bletchley, MK1 1BE, erection of 2-storey side and 7-storey front extension, removal of existing chimney. Any comments?
No.
Item number 4, so items for information only. Cornerstone, proposed installation of base station, Granby Industrial Estate, MK1 1X. Any comments?
Information. All outside your house.
Item 6, to receive an update report on allotment site occupancy and maintenance.
Yeah, so obviously the report's in your pack there. You can see there'd been quite a large turnover during the renewal period, but primarily we've turned the majority of the vacant plots round very quickly, and now are back to just four vacant plots with viewings planned in for those. So all in a good place, really.
Excellent.
Has anybody moaned about the adjustment on price for their respective lots and stuff like that?
No.
Or our price increases? Any
No negative feedback.
That's good.
Okay, item number 7, to consider whether ponds should be allowed on plots at allotment sites owned by the town council. Councillor.
So I have read this with great interest, and I think I've actually changed my view. Because I do believe that even this officer report kind of says that actually it is good for biodiversity. And actually, I think, although there are risks for the council around, health and safety, or whether they could, whether we have to kind of fill in a pond that is not filled in by somebody before they return. I think that there is mitigation for all of these things provided. So, like, if somebody wants a pond, they can have a deposit, and if we say it's going to cost us a couple of £100 to fill in, then you need to give us a deposit of X amount against that. If actually it could be a risk, actually that could be, we could have a set limit on dimensions and depth, which so I think that these are all reasonable mitigations to have. And I think that we have said that we want to be a council that supports, we've declared a climate emergency. Why would we not do things that increases the biodiversity of our sites? So that's my view.
Sorry.
Councillor Axel.
Oh, well, thank you very much, Chair. I agree with Ethan, and I think it's a useful thing for us to have, especially in regard to our carbon audit. And I know it's a tiny thing, but biodiversity is actually a big thing, even though it contains loads of small creatures doing things. The point I just wanted to pick up is the safety aspect, and I don't know enough about the legal side of things, but as long as we dot the I's and cross all the T's and make sure that, we get something signed by the people who want to take up that offer and have a pond installed, it needs to comply to whatever standards we can work out, and maybe Will or somebody from officers can help in setting some basic guidelines and rules that tenants need to adhere to in place. So I'm all for it for what it's worth, but we need to make sure we have all of the relevant bases covered and nobody just digs a big hole and fills it with water.
I'd like to echo both Ethan and Axel. It's the public liability side of things and making sure and ensuring that plot holders are responsible for the pond and not the town council, that there's no blowback to the town council, and it is the responsibility of the plot holders to ensure that public safety is adhered to, and the council has no liability in respect of that side of things. So we may have to research or find out how that could be implemented.
Councillor Keith. I'm completely in favour of ponds on the allotments. I went on this year, I was on the judging group that went round all the allotments to see which ones, and there were a couple of ponds out there. They were very good. They really were good. And I think whoever wrote this report, you did, Will.
I did.
Yes, I did. Sorry, it's a damn good report. It sets out the pros and cons, and having seen all the allotments and where they've got the small ponds, I think the dimensions that have been mentioned in the officer recommendation are the right ones. But the only thing I just hope, we must insist on this business about entry and exit to the ponds for wildlife. I mean, the ones I always see, poor old hedgehogs, they get in there and poor little buggers can't get out sometimes. But that I think is an excellent recommendation. Cheers, Will.
Sure. Councillor Aim.
I've done a couple of ponds because I have my own JCBs. Built 2, maybe 3 allotments complete. The only problems they ever had with the chickens and the ducks, that was secure fences around them. They buried a bit of fence in the ground so rabbits couldn't get under it. Was the neighbours of the chickens. First thing in the bloody morning, making a lot of noise. And there was one person, I know the bloke personally, with his pond in, was a complaint from the neighbours. That was Tatnam. The new part of Tatnam, I've done the extension of Tatnam. It was only about 1.5 metres by 1 metre wide. It wasn't, that's right.
It's not a JCB job, Eamon.
Well, I've done it.
I know, but this is.
I don't drive a JCB.
No, that's not what
Listen to what I said. The neighbours were complaining about the sound, not the size of the pond. It's nothing to do with that. The sound of the wildlife itself. Chickens waking them up and all.
Are we allowed chickens and livestock on our?
No.
Don't allow chickens or livestock.
Ducks.
No.
Okay.
I was going to say, one of the things that it doesn't say is about liability and whatever. We could also say that I understand from just looking on their website that if you are a member of the National Allotment Society, they will give you allotment tiers, liability insurance as part of your membership. And so we could also insist that anyone is a member of said society, which means that there is possible insurance in place which further mitigates us being back.
Councillor Ryan.
But at the end of the day, we can ask the allotment holders to be, have this, have that and the other. They can show us the paperwork. A year later, they don't bother to pay it, or they miss a payment, anything like that. And at the end of the day, we will be liable. We will be criminally liable for any accidents. Because the allotments belong to us. At the end of the day, we will be criminal. If someone dies, it's simple to die I've got a thing here, a little kid died in a water left out for a dog, just over 1 year old. And the parents didn't see her fall, and they banged their head, landed face down in the water. I've got it here, I've copied it off. Yeah. So we are, at the end of the day, we will be criminally liable for any accidents. So we need to check if they say they've got, it's like everybody, people get car insurance, in 5 years down the line, don't pay it.
Sure. I just wanted to add my bit in. I mean, I am for the increase in biodiversity in our green spaces in the council. I mean, I get what Councillor Ron's saying in terms of, risk, especially to children. I mean, there are a lot of other risks on allotment sites as well in that sense, in terms of bits of wood that's left out or trip hazards, things which aren't cut, tall grass. I mean, there are a number of things which can, and it's sort of where do you draw the line almost, and I mean, that's my personal opinion, that it is a risk, but there are a lot of other risks as well in that sense. But it's something that can be managed with, like Councillor Ethan was saying, in terms of having that liability insurance from the actual, from the tenant in that sense.
Well, we all stay in bed if we want to eliminate it, don't we? Well, you can't.
I would suggest that, the tenants that are wanting to do that, put deposit down. I mean, if we've got that structure in place for our tenants anyway, that take a plot of land, and they've got the liability insurance, then I don't see what the problem is.
We don't currently take a deposit from allotment tenants, so that would be introducing something new.
No. But they're introducing something new.
I was just going to say, I think it should be on application, and then we can have the conversation. It's not just a right for everybody, and make sure it's the right things. Just to come back on that point, and I think it was said already, so I don't need to labour it. I also sit there and think that any parent or any person who has responsibility for children who takes their child onto an allotment site which is fenced off and locked with a coded lock, and they then have an accident, I think seriously somebody needs to look at trying to that person and what they did. And I don't necessarily think it is our responsibility to be managing what happens to children that are taken there. That's the responsibility of the adults.
I'll ask it.
Well, I propose that we adopt the recommendations of the officers with the addition of requiring a form to be filled in for application and approval.
With membership to,
That's already.
caveat to that?
Yeah.
Caveat that to what Ethan said about membership to the Allotment Association to get the liability insurance.
I would leave that in. I would leave that for the council officers to look into.
Councillor, we've already vote on this.
Sure. Whose proposal, what's the wording of the proposal?
As
the wording is?
As of in the wording,
Sure.
with the addition of the.
Could I just say, the recommendation doesn't include introduction of a deposit.
No.
Yeah. If you want to add that in, that's,
Trying to mitigate the liability to the council if anything goes wrong, and if it happens to any of them proposed ponds, that the liability should be down to the tenants, not the council. So I would strongly advise that.
I mean,
we do seek them to have their own public liability insurance. If anything goes wrong, it'll be down to the tenants, not the town council.
I think that can also be mitigated by the fact that if somebody enters into a further contract for a pond, and that we can say in that if it's not returned level, then the council will undertake the work and bill you. And actually, if the person refuses to pay, then like anybody else in the country, we can go to the small claims and cover that money if we want to. So that is also another way of dealing with the said matter.
Okay.
I say something. We did have a situation where we had to charge a tenant for the cost of damage to a tap on one of the allotment sites. We found it exceptionally difficult to recover that money. It was written off in the end because the cost to us to go through the legal process would have far outweighed the debt. So, as I say, to mitigate that, the potential for taking a deposit for any future costs levelling the site.
if I could say, I think the problem with deposits is if they're set today, it's difficult to know exactly what to set it at. We've got plot holders that have had allotment plots for 20, 30 years. We're holding money for someone for 20, 30 years. By the time 20, 30 years down the line, that money means nothing. The £100 perhaps that they've put down is, a minuscule amount at that point. Which is why I didn't include it in the recommendation.
I would still say that the plot holders themselves that want to have a pond is changing the contract between the town council and themselves. And at that point, when a new application is sought to have a pond, and we're not opposed to that, but these are the new rules. And again, I want to get away from the town council picking up any extra cost down the road via plot holders not fixing up their land back how they should do. So we can't always stand the cost all the time if members of the public are not going to do their bit.
But Richard, we're talking about a hole in the ground, 5 foot by 3 foot maximum, a maximum of 12 inches deep.
Still staff time.
But it's not going to cost a fortune to fill it in, is it?
No, we've got a big parish at the moment, and it's growing. And if you set precedent, it's going to be all over the parish. And what we're talking about here right now is setting precedent.
Yeah.
Let's just introduce it, and if we find that it's difficult for the next year, we remove it, or we introduce a deposit then, and actually we'll have people on our side because we'll say that we responded to issues. I just think let's get on.
Just one other point. Do we know what the popularity is going to be like? do we think that every person's going to dig upon it?
There's only 2 out there now. And it's all.
We're going to
The perception I've had is people obviously have to grow things on, and they want to sort of maximise the growing space. Generally speaking, so I kind of feel like it's not going to be super popular anyway. And it's not like we're going to have a big issue of, you know, loads of holes in the ground, if that makes sense. Is there a proposal?
Yeah, that's with that.
Second it.
That one. Yeah, and Ron wants something called you vote.
That's the maximum 1 foot 4 inches deep, yeah?
That's 440 millimetres.
Surface area of no more than 1.5 metres.
100, 400, 4 inches, so 300's a foot.
400, about 1 foot 4, isn't it? 1 foot.
4.
Yeah. 16, 1 foot 4, yeah, maximum.
All in favour?
No, you've got to go round.
And this was, sorry, the recommendation there is to trial it at Newton Lees.
Oh,
If you want to do it across the board, then it will need changing slightly, or if you want to just.
Oh, sorry, I'm saying across the board.
Yeah, sure. Okay, start from yourself, Councillor Eden.
Proposal.
Yeah, go on.
Against.
on this one.
Or
It's carried.
Okay, that's carried.
Really, to be fair.
Item number 8, to receive an up-to-date report on landscape maintenance progress and to approve expenditure on an additional piece of equipment for the maintenance of banks.
Yeah, so you've got an update report really on progress thus far. Obviously, we took over the landscaping on the 4th of September. At that point, there'd been 4 cuts of the amenity grass. Since then, we've completed a further 3 cuts. It took us to the end of October. We've done hedge cutting, so we've had a large tractor and sidearm flail on hire for a 3-week period. We've also currently got a smaller tractor and flail on hire for a 2-week period. That's to get all of the hedge cutting done. So we're well underway there. And once that's finished, we'll be right into the shrub maintenance, so the winter programme of works. And we'll be systematically working the way through the parish, pruning the shrubs and crown lifting trees where necessary. In your pack, there's the winter bedwork schedule. The yellow blocks are when we'll be in each area of the parish, effectively. There's some pictures in there of some befores and afters, which always sort of tell a story. Obviously, we inherited much of the landscape in pretty poor condition, but progress is going well to improve that. And obviously, we're in it for the long game, so we can't expect miracles straight away. But so far so good. In terms of resident inquiries, since we started, we've had 40 landscape inquiries through the online application. You can see a breakdown there of the type of inquiries, the category of inquiries that we've received. We've had inquiries that relate to areas outside of our parish. We've had inquiries about pathways that are not within the remit of our contract. Many of the hedge and shrub inquiries, they've been happy to know that we'll be in their area at, they've been forwarded the dates of the winter programme, so they know we're on our way. So far so good. Moving on to bank mowing. So we've got a number of relatively steep banks in our parish. For instance, the edges of the Water-Eaton Brook, which we flailed down while we had the tractor and flail. during that period. But the feedback has been very much that from councillors, from residents, and from the team, that we'd like to keep those banks cut more frequently. The only means that we've got of doing that currently would be effectively hand strimming, incredibly labour intensive, doesn't give a particularly accurate or neat finish. So we're looking at possible other equipment that would give us the ability to keep those banks mowed more frequently. So in the report, you'll see details of a particular pedestrian. So that's a walk behind bank mower, the Skag SW Z48. And this is sort of very much an industry standard bit of kit. It's used across the world, made in America, used across the world for this type of work. And these machines are used by Milton Keynes Council's contractors locally. They're used by other neighbouring devolved parishes. And they're sold through a network of dealerships across the country, the local one of which is RT Machinery near Aylesbury. The price is £9,450. In addition to the banks, the machine could be used for other areas that the ride-on mowers can't get to, such as areas that are enclosed by ascot rail, internal courtyards, of which we've got a few, and also some of the pathways that on allotment sites. The purchase of the mower would be funded using the landscape revenue budget, which there are sufficient funds still in for this year to cover the cost.
Just a quick one for me. I've had positive feedback from members of the public talking about the landscaping and how it's improved in the area. I'm really pleased to know that the parish is becoming more a sense of pride. And I think the public are actually understanding that we're actually cutting the grass ourselves. So, yeah, well done.
Councillor.
As you said, as we all know, we took it over all landscaping in poor condition. Did you report that to Milton Keynes Council, the poor condition that we took it over in?
Well, they're well aware of it, yeah.
Yeah. Of course, they've paid somebody to do that and they haven't done it, have they?
Yeah.
I also think that we should, if you've got it in the budget, purchase the new equipment. And I will propose that we purchase the new equipment if I can get a seconder.
I'll second that.
All in favour? All abstain or against?
You can't have a black string.
So ask the environment manager to thank the new team that have come on board.
Absolutely.
Positive
Yeah,
feedback.
nice one.
Obviously.
And him.
Yeah, thank you, yeah. But yes, I will pass that on. Yeah,
Thank you very much.
much appreciated. Yeah.
Item number 9, to receive an amended carbon audit commission to understand the council's current carbon footprint and consider actions therein. There was a carbon audit report back. I'd like to start the
Sorry, can you
discussion on
just
that.
repeat that, Chair? You cut out there for a
Oh,
second.
yeah. Oh, yeah, sure. It's item number 9, to receive an amended carbon audit commission to understand the council's current carbon footprint and consider actions therein. So who'd like to kickstart the discussion about that?
Go on, Axel. You're dying to get in.
Get on.
I'm not honest. Thank you, Chair. Yeah, I think I would be repeating myself if I said this was important. I would like to point to an email that Will very kindly sent around, I think earlier this week, was it? Asking, pardon?
Yes, earlier this week. Axel, yeah.
Asking everybody on the council, not just our group, but everybody on the council to join us in our quest to reduce our carbon emissions. And this carbon audit was the main kind of tool that we've created now as a first step. And there's a bunch of recommendations, some low-hanging fruits in there, and we need a quorum of councillors to join us in this working group to actually review this in detail, and then come to, I understand, the main council and this subcommittee with recommendations and costs and an actual plan of action to act on our self-declared climate emergency. That was it. I was trying to be as succinct as possible.
Did we have something on the table where we was looking at possible solar panels on the top of this roof here and on top of some of our other community centres to reduce carbon footprint? Is that something that we should be thinking about doing?
There was a recommendation in this document for solar panels, but I think it was talking about a solar farm for the amount of energy that we use, basically. But again, yeah, having solar panels will obviously reduce or increase the amount of renewable energy that's coming in and being used, if that makes sense.
If I could, Chair.
Yeah.
We have applied to the Community Infrastructure Fund for funding towards solar panels on this building already.
Is that something that we could do at Signal Hall?
Yeah.
So is that something that we should adopt as a council to go across the parish, if necessary, that we adopt this way of saving money through solar panels and or even
more for the working group, wouldn't it?
Yes, but it's still got to come from this committee, isn't it? And or even renewable energy as in gas, the gas supply and stuff like that. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, we can definitely. Yeah. So, Councillor Axel.
Thank you, Chair. Richard, thank you. There's a bunch of stuff that I'm very keen for us to review, not as part of this committee, but a part of that working group, so we can pull out an actual kind of action plan, so we can show you and say, okay, we put solar panels on that, that's the impact, that's the recommendation, that's the cost, that's how we can fund it. There's loads of opportunities there, and I am casting my mind back, was it the last committee meeting we had, or one of the ones we had recently, featured solar panels being installed somewhere, and I can't remember. I'm sorry, Richard, and everybody else who's waiting for me to remember, but yeah, there was one point where we already have something happening, which I think was even Newton Lee's pavilion or something.
Yeah, that'll be this Community Infrastructure Fund that we've applied to, Axel,
that was
for funding for solar panels here at Newton Lee's pavilion.
Yeah, that's the one I was thinking of. Thank you so much, Will. Yeah, so I think Richard and everybody else, appreciate your patience. I think we need a certain number of people on that working group. So if you haven't read the email yet, look at what that working group does. And in the carbon audit, I encourage you to do so and consider joining us. And then we'll work out a plan, and we'll come with something very concise and actionable to this committee and to the council.
Councillor Axel, have you decided how frequently the working group would meet?
I don't think we've got, we haven't agreed terms of reference or anything like that, or meeting cadence. I would suggest that we, I haven't got the email, I apologise. I suggest that we have an initial meeting. Those can be hybrid meetings, but in the beginning it will probably be a higher frequency until we've hammered out how we want to tackle this and get an action plan going. And then I would say at least once a month, but maybe in the first month a couple more times.
Is that something that we can bring to full council to get other councillors' interest
sure.
in the committee, in the hybrid meetings and coming online and streaming online, because we need the input from more councillors on more committees. And that's something that we've got to do, is get the involvement of other councillors other than the same faces around the table.
I second that, Richard.
So do we need a proposal for bringing that to full council? That's been seconded.
I'm not even sure I'm allowed to do that from remote, but I definitely propose and second it.
I don't think you can propose and second it. I'll propose it. I'll propose that.
Just a reminder, I mean, we've already applied for solar panels on this roof. The working group that's looking at Sycamore Hall and House is considering solar panels on the hall, and also potential for a ground source pump, heating purposes. And what's the other one? There's another one.
George Street, Fenny Stratford Community Centre.
Yeah, we haven't got anything on that one, have we yet?
No, not yet. No.
I was thinking another. No, that's right. An extra additional insulation in the new roof to the hall. So that's being done as much as possible, and that's as far as we've reached so far. So we've started, but I think it's going to be down to finance in the end, just how much we can tease. But I think some of the thing I like about this report as well is giving you some of the funding possibilities. It's not just said that that's what you've got to do. It's then try to point you in the right direction, which I think is extremely helpful. So I think we should note the report and act towards it. But you can't produce it all. You can't do it in a few years. It's going to take a long time. But we should note the report and then work towards it.
Axel?
Absolutely, Keith, I agree with you. And what I would like to achieve, for us to achieve, is a strategy and a proper, clear path to, oh God, this is going to sound horrible, so apologies, a clear path to net zero. We've declared a climate emergency. We've started doing a few things, but I think if we can formulate this as part of a clear plan of action, we can communicate against it, and we can set some milestone and say, look, this is what we've done. We've got insulation in there, we've got solar panels in that, we've got heat pumps there. We're doing, we can communicate it back to our community, who are regularly asking me, what's the council doing and how is this climate emergency actually being tackled? So I think if we pull it together under that, and we have a working group with a group of committed councillors to feed into this, and I think it's really important to get other people's feedback to help shape that and best represent also the needs of our community.
Once we get that strategy right, we can actually adopt that, say, for instance, in the neighbourhood plan, the strategy that the council has taken.
So is there a proposal for the going to full council? Sorry.
Yeah, so the money we're going to get, we're going to go 50-50 on this, aren't we? I think that's how that.
If we get the funding, yeah.
If we get, or it might be 60-40, you never know, do you? You can't guarantee 50-50, can we? That's not guaranteed.
Well, it's up to £40,000 limit, 20,000 from MKC, and then
that's
20,000 from.
And when we start doing the work at Sycamore, obviously, as we're doing all the new bit afterwards, and therefore we might be able to claim that if we look in the right direction. Am I thinking right?
Yeah.
It's by design.
Solar panels on the roof.
Crack it, Ron.
Yeah.
solar panels in your roof, if you're doing the roof, but
As I say, this is an afterthought for here.
Yeah.
But it's going to be within the planning of the new building.
What's there a proposal?
So I say to note the report and to work towards achieving its aims.
Sure. So item number 10, to consider whether the approved community infrastructure fund project to install advances along sections of Queensway should be reconsidered. Will, there's some notes from Delia. This one wasn't there.
Delia sent an email around on this, which is, much of the same content as is in the report in here. It was a late report. It only went on yesterday. yeah, I mean, I can sort of talk you through it.
I've got a view on the planters that, you know, with the town deal and the perception of residents in Bletchley and the way that Bletchley's looked, there's a feeling of patch fixing, and I don't believe we need to put the planters in yet until we get a strategy right for the town centre as a whole. I think we should put the planters down into Fenny, Stratford for now, where it's a little bit more cleaner down there, and utilise it properly. I just don't think putting planters in is going to resolve any of the issues down in Queensway at this present moment in time until we get a proper full strategy of what our town centre is going to look like. If we start to just patch fix it and put bits here, bits there, it's just not going to be good enough, and the public are going to think, what's the council actually doing? So that's my little rant.
Councillor Andrew.
I understand, and correct me if I'm wrong, that there's council going through some sort of parking review at the moment for Queensway.
That's part of
Bletchley,
the deal. That's part of the town deal.
So
that's what we're waiting for.
yeah, well, exactly. I'm just wondering if we should wait for that report before we put the planters in.
Okay.
That's the danger, is if we put the planters in now, we've got the town deal, we've got this parking review, anything that's put in could be incompatible with those.
Absolutely right.
Sure. Axel.
Yeah, Councillor Axel.
Hello. Thank you, Chair. I agree with the recommendation from our officers. The only thing I would add to this report is that while we've got the parking review and the new town deal and all of those things happening, it takes a long time, and we have a pressing parking issue. So I'm very keen to see us address this sooner rather than later, and I don't know. So please feel free to correct me if I'm mistaken in my thinking that these, especially the parking report, will take a good long while to produce and then provide recommendations and then actually be enacted. You know, I'm concerned that we've had this on the agenda for, correct me if I'm wrong, about 2 years now. So the parking situation, it continues to be, well, bad, and I would argue it's getting worse in some cases. So the sooner we can introduce this, and maybe we can start with the ones in Fenny and then hopefully move things along quicker. So that's the only 2 pence I wanted to add to that. I think the timescales are a bit frustrating to our residents, because especially in Fenny, Stratford, people are abusing the pavements quite a lot.
That's right.
The parking review should be done this month, shouldn't it? Or started this month? I don't know if they've started already, but it should be started this month. And the people were saying to me, oh, where's our planters coming? I said, well, there's a parking review and there's other things. So I said, after that, then we can look at where to put them, because I feel the town needs things like planters, because you go to other towns and you see all the plants and whatever, and it looks really nice, it boosts the town, but you don't want to put a planter in here and then 3 weeks later the buildings are there, so you've got to move it up there. So I can understand holding off for a while, but not doing away with the idea altogether, and maybe after the parking review, because you might be able to add that in part of the parking review as a stoppage to stop people getting on the pavements, because you don't know what they're going to do. And then they might let's say for argument's sake, they stick cars all along one side. There's nothing to stop people coming up the pavement, up the drop curb like they do. You know, so you need something to dissuade them from doing things like that. So not do away with the parking, the idea of now. Just hold that till the review is done, and let's chase and move Milton Keynes Council and make them move themselves on these things. Start getting things on the move. That's what people want to see, things happening, like they have with the landscaping.
I just want to say, I think we've got, so I hear all the points about Queensway and I'm all for doing something with Queensway. We've got to remember in the context of this report that this is a budget that's got to be spent this year. The Queensway issue is not going to be fixed by the end of the financial year. And so actually, I think we just need to refocus on the decision whether we do nothing or whether we move it to Fenny Stratford, so which can be delivered this year. Fenny Stratford also has a parking problem, and I love a couple of the restaurants there and visit frequently. And I think it would be nice to have a little bit of colour in Fenny Stratford.
That's right.
And I also think it would be nice to kind of deal with some of the parking that is there. So I would like to do this.
We spent £183,000 on the parking at Fenny Stratford. It's not been used properly because a certain person who runs an MOT station took all the parking signs down and did it 3 times, so it can't be enforced apart. We don't need any planters in there. We just need the signs put back up because he's now sold the garage. Well, Romanians to take them down, or the Romanians that are hiring them to get garage off of will take them down. And you know, it's to be seen, but the signs can go back up now, and then it can be enforced.
Eamon, a question for you. Who maintains the old water trough outside the Bull and Butcher?
Pub.
That pub still does it? Oh, right.
So I agree with Ethan that we should refocus our attention on £5,000 that needs to be spent this financial year to get the planters moved into Fenny Stratford, because the parking issue, Axel, it's been going on since the dawn of time.
No,
just hear me out. In Queensway, I don't believe in the next couple of years. I don't believe in the next couple of years it's going to resolve itself until such times as we do and get our neighbourhood plan fixed and cemented. The town deal sorts out the parking review. I think we should be a little bit patient and not patch fix the town centre, but actually we make a complete renovation of the town centre, so we've got the maximum impact, and that's it, instead of patch fixing it. I just don't believe that's going to be the case.
Councillor Axel.
Thank you, Richard. I hear you, and I'm very happy to share with you my slightly more radical plans for tackling this issue over the weeks of time. But just to be not labouring this point, I think what Ethan and Ron said, I'll completely agree with you guys. And if I was able to propose, I would propose that we take the officer's recommendation.
Councillor.
Fenny Stratford doesn't need any plumbers. It just needs the signs back on. And the signs that were taken off the lampposts, because we've had a lot of new lampposts put there, but the signs for parking restrictions weren't put back on. They were thrown in the skip. So we need our parking signs put back. And then it's been resolved. We can't spend 183 grand on it just about 7 or 8 years ago and then start changing it all again.
I'm going to say, unfortunately, we're not a parking authority, we're not a highway authority, and there's whilst we can kind of give our thoughts to both of them and ask for that to happen, what we're actually talking about is whether we've got an existing decision that we wanted planters in Queensway, and it's whether to move them to Fenny Stratford or not. And that's the issue that we need to be kind of focusing on tonight. I think that I will propose on behalf of Axel that they are moved to Fenny Stratford, because I think that we've already got one nice historic trough that is looked after by the pub, and why wouldn't we give Fenny Stratford a few more bits of foliage to kind of look at? I think it would be nice.
See, I agree with Ethan. See, it's not only to stop the parking, it's to, as cars come through, it's to make it look nice. When you go to other towns and you see it, you think, oh, that looks nice, that looks nice. So if we do it in Fenny, and that people from Bletchley see it in Fenny, say, where's ours, where's ours? And say, well, it's on its way. But they will see something's been done. It's not just to stop the parking, it's to make the place look nice. And, when you look at it, and to me, they're so simple to look after. Also, you'll have shops and say, oh, we'll sponsor this, we'll sponsor that. You know, the ones in Queensway, 2 of them would have been sponsored, one by the Leon Residents Association, one by the Post Office Club. And they said, we'll pay any cost, you know, for that one trough. And to be fair, so there's not a lot of work on these guys. The simplest way to look after them is in the winter, violas. They fall apart by themselves. Summer, non-stop begonias.
That's a
Job done.
All right. I picked the trough up from Wolverhampton Museum and placed that trough there outside the pub. That took me over a month to get that sorted out because I had to get planning permission. You can't put the troughs anywhere you like. There can be no services underneath it whatsoever. And there are services everywhere. So I suggest you put a little cross on the map where you think you want them, then go and see the council and see if you can put it there.
But we've made a decision.
We will have to go
We've
through.
made a decision to move the troughs to Fenny Stratford. The infrastructure side of things will come afterwards. So I second the proposal.
How can you plant something there when you can't put it there, when you don't put permission? You can't build a house then go and get planning permission after.
It's about this is about moving the troughs to Fenny Stratford. The infrastructure about moving it will come later, but we've decided to move it to Fenny Stratford. So I've seconded the proposal already.
Just as a technical point, I believe you'll find is that if it's related to a highway matter, you don't need planning permission.
You need permission from highways.
But that's a different thing.
You know exactly what I meant. You're just going and skirting around it.
I think I'm just coming back to this, whether or not we should be moving it.
Perhaps you might like to ask the people who put Fenny who actually live in Fenny.
Anyway, it's been proposed and seconded.
Okay, all in favour? All against? Item number 11, to note a report showing income and expenditure against budget which falls within the remit of the committee.
Go through each page.
Just for noting, really, unless anyone's got any comment.
Yeah, got any questions? I'd be happy to.
I have publicised to the community in Newton Lees that the decision was taken to continue to empty the dog bins, dog waste bins, twice a week until the end of the year. That was received really well by the local community, and I think in setting our budget, I would ask the committee to consider that option.
Have you built it into next year's budget requirement? Oh,
Yes.
bloody dog bins. I love it.
Another waste of money.
Good God, you and I agree on something.
Yeah.
There you go.
I think dogs.
Excellent. So yeah, that's just to note.
Just a question. How many dog bins has Aylesbury Vale got in their area?
No idea.
Sorry, in Halesbury Vale in Milton Keynes?
In Aylesbury Vale and Newton Lees, how many dog bins have they got?
I don't know. I think it's probably maybe 1 or 2.
That's why those are getting filled up then. Obvious, isn't it? They've not got enough dog bins for their area.
Loads of public open spaces in Aylesbury Vale. It's all.
But they've probably got cats and dogs and animals over in
Yeah,
Aylesbury Vale.
if you walk a dog, you take it on a walk, don't you? And actually, there is a little play park in the park that is Aylesbury Vale, but there is not much else. That said, in the same communication I sent to everybody, I did say, because I have 2 dog bins that have not yet been placed but have been agreed to, and I have said I cannot, unfortunately, our council cannot place them in Aylesbury Vale. So if you would like dog bins in Aylesbury Vale, please speak to your local parish council in Stoke Highland. So I think I probably agree with you.
Are they Stoke Hammer Parish?
Yeah.
Aye.
Yeah.
Any further comments?
No.
So that's 8:30, and I'll bring the meeting to a close. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Chair.